When someone doesn't respect you, the first and most powerful thing you can do is set clear boundaries without over explaining, because boundaries are not about controlling the other person. They are about teaching people how to treat you and reminding yourself that you deserve respect. No matter who is on the other side of the conversation, people often fall into the trap of explaining too much, trying to justify why they need space or why they don't want to be spoken to in a certain way, and that's where they lose their power. The more you explain, the more the other person has an opening to argue, minimize, or push back on what you said. But when you set a boundary clearly and calmly with no extra details, you leave no room for negotiation and no space for disrespect. To sneak through boundaries are like a door with a lock. They keep things out that don't belong, and they protect the value of what's inside. Think about the last time someone spoke to you in a tone that felt dismissive. If you immediately tried to defend yourself with long explanations, you probably felt drained and maybe even more disrespected than before. But if you simply said, "That tone doesn't work for me," or "I won't continue this conversation if it keeps going like this," you held the line without throwing away your energy. The goal isn't to fight. The goal is to communicate your standard once and let your actions back it up. People don't always take boundaries seriously at first, especially if they are used to you giving in or over-explaining. But when you remain consistent with what you allow and what you won't allow, they start to learn quickly. Boundaries also force you to get clear about yourself. You can't communicate a limit to someone else if you haven't first decided what your limit actually is. And that's where a lot of people struggle. They don't know what behavior crosses the line until it happens, and then they freeze or let it slide because they're unsure. But when you think about it ahead of time, when you decide that being interrupted constantly or spoken to harshly isn't acceptable, you're ready for it when it shows up, and you can calmly call it out without feeling caught off guard. This isn't about being rigid, it's about being prepared, so disrespect doesn't throw you off balance. It's important to remember that setting boundaries doesn't require a raised voice or a long explanation. It's often just a short, direct statement said in a calm, steady tone, and then silence. The silence is key, because silence is uncomfortable for people who are used to controlling the conversation. If you fill the silence with explanations, they'll use that to argue. But if you hold the silence, they're left with the weight of your boundary, and most people will step back when they realize you mean it. Boundaries also show people how much you value yourself. When you don't set them, you send the message that others can take as much space as they want in your life. But when you do set them, you quietly teach that your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable and not up for negotiation. Disrespect thrives where boundaries are weak, but it shrinks quickly when it runs into someone who knows their worth and calmly communicates it. Another thing to keep in mind is that boundaries are not one-time events. They are ongoing actions. Every time you reinforce them, you strengthen them, and every time you let one slide, you weaken them. So consistency matters. If you tell someone not to interrupt you and then laugh it off, the next time they do it, you've taught them the boundary isn't real. But if you calmly stop the conversation every single time it happens, they eventually realize it's not worth testing anymore. This doesn't make you cold or difficult, it makes you clear. The truth is, people may not always like your boundaries, but that's not the goal. The goal isn't to keep everyone comfortable. It's to keep yourself respected. You can be kind and respectful while still drawing a line, and in fact, the kindest thing you can do for yourself and others is to show up with clarity. When you stand firm without over-explaining, you send the message that respect isn't optional, it's the standard, and that changes how people treat you in every area of your life. When someone doesn't respect you, one of the strongest tools you have is your ability to stay calm and not mirror their disrespect, because the moment you match their tone or energy, you've already handed them control of the situation. It's easy to think that snapping back or raising your voice proves your strength, but in reality, it only shows that they've pulled you into their game. People who lack respect often want a reaction. They want to see if they can get under your skin, and once they do, they feel like they've won. That's why calmness is such a powerful move. It's not weakness, it's control. And control is where real confidence shows up. Staying calm means you are grounded enough not to let someone else's chaos become yours. It means that no matter what comes at you, your peace is non-negotiable, and that forces the other person to see you in a different light. Think about it when someone disrespects you and you fire back with the same energy, the situation usually escalates, nothing is solved, and you walk away frustrated. But if you stay calm, you disrupt the pattern because disrespect expects disrespect in return when it doesn't get that it has nowhere to land. Your calmness acts like a wall. It protects your energy and it reminds the other person that you won't be pulled into a level beneath you. It's not about ignoring what they said or pretending it didn't sting. It's about choosing not to let their behavior dictate yours. That choice is where your real strength is tested and built. It takes practice because our natural instinct is to defend ourselves. We want to clap back, we want to prove a point, but that's where you lose the bigger picture. Defending yourself doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes the strongest defense is a calm tone, steady eye contact, and short, direct words that carry more weight than any long argument ever could. When someone tries to disrespect you, and you calmly say, "I'm not okay with that," and then stop talking. The silence that follows has more impact than a heated exchange because they can't push against calm the same way they can push against anger. Another layer to staying calm is remembering that disrespect usually says more about the other person than it does about you. People project their frustrations, insecurities, or lack of self-control onto others. And if you absorb it by reacting the same way, you've just carried their baggage for them. But if you remain calm, you're making it clear that their baggage stays with them, not with you. Calmness separates you from their behavior, and that separation keeps your self-respect intact. It's not about excusing what they did, it's about refusing to let it lower your standards. There's also a respect factor that comes with calmness. People might not admit it, but they pay attention to how you handle pressure. When you can be calm under fire, you instantly raise your level in their eyes, even if they never say it out loud. They notice that they couldn't shake you, and that often makes them think twice before trying it again, because people test limits, and once they see that you won't be baited into disrespect, they stop wasting their energy trying to get a reaction out of you. Calmness creates an invisible authority that loudness never could. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. Staying calm doesn't equal staying silent. It means your responses are measured, not emotional. It means you can call something out in a firm, steady way without adding extra fuel to the fire. You might say, "That's not how you talk to me," or "I'll finish this conversation," when respect is on the table, and then walk away. Those words, said calmly, are far more powerful than shouting back because they show that you're in control of both the conversation and yourself. Over time, staying calm builds a reputation for you. People learn that you don't break under pressure, you don't get dragged into petty arguments, and you don't waste your energy mirroring behavior that doesn't deserve your time. And that reputation protects you because people who don't respect boundaries often look for the easiest target. And when you show that you can't be rattled, they move on. Staying calm is like putting up a shield. It keeps you strong, it keeps you centered, and it shows everyone around you that disrespect might knock on your door, but it never gets an invitation inside. When you are dealing with people who don't respect you, one of the most important things you can do is use confident body language and tone, because the way you present yourself often speaks louder than the words that come out of your mouth. Respect is communicated before you even open your mouth. It's in how you stand, how you look at someone, how you hold your shoulders, and the steadiness in your voice. People pick up on those cues instantly, and they decide if they can push past you or if they need to step back. Confident body language doesn't mean you have to be aggressive. It means you carry yourself in a way that says, you know, your worth and you're not afraid to show it. The difference between someone who gets dismissed and someone who commands respect often comes down to the small details and how they show up, and those details are completely in your control. Think about eye contact. If you avoid it, People will sense hesitation or insecurity, and that invites disrespect. But if you maintain steady, calm eye contact without glaring or looking away, you signal that you are present and paying attention and that you are not easily intimidated. The same goes for posture. When you slump your shoulders or fold into yourself, it silently communicates that you are shrinking from the moment. But when you stand tall, feet grounded, shoulders back, and chest open, you send a message that you belong in the space and you are not moving from it. That physical presence shifts the energy of any conversation, and people feel it without you having to say a word. Tone of voice is just as powerful as body language. Someone might not even hear the exact words you are saying if the tone doesn't match the message. A shaky, rushed tone tells people you are unsure. A sharp or defensive tone makes it sound like you are trying too hard to fight back. But a steady, calm, even tone communicates confidence and control. When you lower your pace, slow down your words, and let silence follow your statements, you create weight in the conversation. Silence becomes your ally because it forces the other person to sit with what you said rather than rushing past it. Confident communication isn't about how much you say, it's about how clearly and calmly you say what matters. There's also a balance between openness and firmness in your body language that makes a huge difference. Crossing your arms tightly or pointing your finger can come across as defensive or hostile, but keeping your arms relaxed by your side with your palms open while you speak shows that you are approachable without being passive. It's the middle ground where respect lives. Approachable enough to have a conversation, firm enough to not be taken lightly when someone disrespects you. Your physical presence should remind them that while you won't meet them with hostility, you also won't shrink away. The key to using confident body language and tone is consistency. You can't just turn it on when conflict shows up and ignore it the rest of the time, because people will notice the shift. The more consistently you carry yourself with confidence, the less often you'll even have to deal with disrespect in the first place. People who might have tested you will think twice before doing so because they've already picked up on how you hold yourself, and they know it won't be easy to push past your boundaries. Confidence in body language is also about self-respect. The way you treat yourself physically influences how others treat you. When you take care of how you dress, how you walk into a room, how you sit at a table, you're sending a signal not just to others, but to yourself that you are worthy of respect. And once you feel that internally, it radiates externally. People sense it, even if they can't explain why they respond differently, because you're showing them without words that you value yourself. When disrespect shows up and you respond with strong body language and steady tone, you turn the focus away from their behavior and back onto your standard. And that shift changes the entire interaction. They may not like it, they may still try to push, but your presence makes it clear that you're not an easy target. And that confidence grows every time you practice it. Because confidence isn't something you wait to feel before you show it. It's something you choose to project, and the more you project it, the more natural it becomes, and the less room disrespect will ever have to stay in your space. Limiting your access to people who drain your respect is one of the strongest moves you can make, because not everyone deserves the same level of your time or energy. And the reality is that the more you allow constant disrespect in your space, the more it chips away at your confidence and self-worth. People often feel guilty about creating distance, as if protecting their peace means they're being harsh or unkind. But the truth is, you have a limited amount of energy each day, and if you spend it on people who don't respect you, then you leave yourself empty for the people who actually value you. Setting limits on access is not about punishing anyone. It's about prioritizing yourself and sending a clear signal that you won't allow repeated disrespect to live in your environment. When you step back from people who consistently show you disregard, you gain clarity on who really belongs in your life and who doesn't. And that clarity is freeing, because respect is the foundation of any relationship, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, or anyone in between. Without it, nothing healthy can grow. but too many times people keep giving unlimited access to someone who has already shown multiple times that they don't value them, hoping things will change over time. And what happens is you end up training that person to believe that their behavior is acceptable because you keep showing up anyway. If someone disrespects you and you continue to reward them with your time, you've taught them that their treatment of you has no consequences. Pulling back your access doesn't always mean cutting someone off completely. Sometimes it's just about reducing the amount of time you spend with them or the level of information you share with them. Maybe they don't get to know everything about your personal life. Maybe you keep interactions short, polite, and to the point instead of giving them full entry into your world. And by doing this, you take back control of the dynamic. You're not shutting the door. You're simply choosing how wide you want it to open and for how long. The key here is intentionality. You choose where your energy flows instead of letting disrespectful people drain it without boundaries. There's also strength in understanding that not everyone has to like your decision to limit access. People who are used to overstepping will often react with frustration or guilt trips when you start pulling back because they've benefited from having free access to you for so long. But you cannot build your life around someone else's comfort level. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is making sure you create a space where you feel respected, valued, and safe to grow. And if that means stepping back from certain people, then that's the cost of protecting your peace. It's also worth noting that limiting access doesn't always have to be dramatic. It can be quiet and consistent. You don't need a big announcement or confrontation. You simply change how you engage. You respond slower. You keep conversations shorter. You stop volunteering your energy to people who have shown they don't handle it with care. And over time, those changes build a new boundary that people recognize without you having to explain it over and over again. It's the consistency that speaks the loudest, not the performance of trying to make someone understand your reasons. When you control access, you also free yourself up to give more to the relationships that do matter, because every time you say no to someone who drains your respect, you create more space to say yes to someone who builds it up. And that shift in focus makes a huge difference in your overall quality of life. You start to notice that you feel lighter, calmer, and more confident simply because you are no longer pouring into empty cups. Instead, you're surrounding yourself with people who respect and value you, and that fuels your energy instead of depleting it. At the end of the day, limiting access to disrespectful people is about teaching both them and yourself an important lesson. It teaches them that you will not reward disrespect with attention, and it teaches you that you are worth protecting. People may or may not change their behavior, but whether they do or not isn't the point. The point is that you showed up for yourself, you set a boundary, and you kept it strong by choosing where your time and energy go. And that choice creates a standard for how everyone else will treat you going forward. Walking away when respect isn't on the table is one of the hardest but most powerful moves you can make, because it requires you to value your self-worth more than someone else's approval or validation. Many people stay in situations where they are not respected because they fear what will happen if they leave. They fear conflict, they fear being misunderstood, or they fear losing connection. But the truth is that staying where respect does not exist only costs you more over time. And the longer you stay, the more it teaches the other person that their behavior is acceptable. When you walk away, you are sending a message without shouting, without fighting, and without begging for change. The message is simple. I respect myself enough not to stay where I am not valued, and that action will always speak louder than any words you could say. It's important to understand that walking away isn't weakness, it's strength, because it shows restraint, control, and clarity. Anyone can stay and argue, anyone can match disrespect with more disrespect, but it takes a higher level of confidence to recognize when a conversation or relationship is no longer serving you, and to step back with calm and dignity Walking away protects your peace, and sometimes it's the only thing that gets through to people who think they can continue treating you poorly because disrespect thrives on attention. It grows when you keep engaging, but when you withdraw your presence, you cut off the fuel that keeps it alive. And that silence is often more powerful than any comeback you could ever deliver. Walking away when respect isn't on the table is one of the hardest but most powerful moves you can make because it requires you to value your self-worth more than someone else's approval or validation. Many people stay in situations where they are not respected because they fear what will happen if they leave. They fear conflict, they fear being misunderstood, or they fear losing connection. But the truth is that staying where respect does not exist only costs you more over time. And the longer you stay, the more it teaches the other person that their behavior is acceptable. When you walk away, you are sending a message without shouting, without fighting, and without begging for change. The message is simple. I respect myself enough not to stay where I am not valued, and that action will always speak louder than any words you could say. It's important to understand that walking away isn't weakness, it's strength, because it shows restraint, control, and clarity. Anyone can stay and argue, anyone can match disrespect with more disrespect, but it takes a higher level of confidence to recognize when a conversation or relationship is no longer serving you and to step back with calm and dignity. Walking away protects your peace. And sometimes it's the only thing that gets through to people who think they can continue treating you poorly because disrespect thrives on attention. It grows when you keep engaging, but when you withdraw your presence, you cut off the fuel that keeps it alive, and that silence is often more powerful than any comeback you could ever deliver. Walking away doesn't always mean leaving permanently. It can mean ending a conversation that is heading nowhere, or stepping away from an interaction that has crossed a line. Maybe you walk out of a room when someone keeps raising their voice, or you end a phone call when someone refuses to listen. The act of walking away says, I'm not going to continue here because the standard I need is missing. And the moment you do that, you reset the power dynamic because now you've shown that you are not desperate for their attention or their approval. Your standard is more important than staying in the moment, and that forces them to see that disrespect will never hold you hostage. It also teaches you something about yourself. Every time you walk away from a situation where you're not respected, you reinforce your own self-belief. You remind yourself that you don't have to stay somewhere that chips away at your value. You don't need to win every battle or prove your point to people who aren't even listening. Your worth doesn't depend on convincing someone else to recognize it. Your worth is already there, and walking away is how you honor it. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes to protect your peace without hesitation. Some people may accuse you of being cold or distant when you walk away, but that's only because they benefited from you staying, even when they disrespected you. Their discomfort is not a sign that you are wrong. It's a sign that your boundary is working, because people who are used to crossing lines don't like it when the line suddenly holds firm, but their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to yourself, to your energy, to your future, and to the people who truly deserve your time. Walking away is about creating space for those relationships to thrive, instead of wasting yourself on ones that drain you. There's also a quiet kind of respect that people develop for those who can walk away without drama. They may not admit it at first, but over time, they remember the person who didn't get pulled into the mess, who didn't lower themselves, who simply removed themselves from a space that didn't meet their standard. And that memory sticks because not many people have the discipline to do it. Most get caught in the cycle of proving themselves, but the one who walks away stands out as someone who cannot be controlled by disrespect, and that presence lingers even after you're gone. In the end, walking away is about reminding yourself that your time and your energy are limited resources, and where you spend them determines the quality of your life. If someone shows you repeatedly that they will not meet you with respect, then giving them more of your presence only teaches them that you'll tolerate less than you deserve. but when you walk away, you teach them the opposite. And more importantly, you teach yourself that respect is not negotiable. You either get it or you remove yourself from the space entirely, because nothing is more valuable than your peace and nothing is worth sacrificing it for.